Man,
Woo!
just another day in the park.
That's it, baby. Hello, world.
All right, and I think we're going live.
Hello,
It
world.
looks like we are going live. Yeah, and we're live.
Woo!
What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome,
Woo!
welcome back to another episode of Progresses Abroad. I'm your host, BoTik. I'm reporting live from Oslo, Norway, on
Woo!
day, I don't know, 628,000 of the quarantine zone. And as usual, we are joined with the greatest, the latest, Screamin Eagle. Everybody give it up once again. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Boutique. Good to be here again, my friend.
How you doing today? How's life?
Just another beautiful sunny day in South Florida that I can't enjoy by going to the beach or go sitting at the pool. I guess I could put an inflatable pool in front of my garage and go lay out on the asphalt, but
Dude,
I'd rather.
it's been really nice here too. Like today, um, I mean, it's been some really nice weather the past couple of days. Today it was like sunny. I know this doesn't sound really warm compared to what you have in Florida right now, probably, but today we had 18 degrees Celsius and sun.
Whoa!
So 18 degrees Celsius is like, I don't know, like 68 degrees outside and like sun. And it's actually getting to that time of year now where we are having to start having longer days. So it's like staying late out until almost like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So it's like blasting sun. So it's actually getting pretty warm out today.
Yikes!
Fortunately. And actually, you know what? That reminds me. I think I'll just jump right into it. I wanted to do a little bit of what's happening on the ground over
Oh
here right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and
Sure.
just so you can see what kind of sunny day it was today. Let me see if I can do this. I'm gonna share this picture right here. Yes, and
News update. It was just fresh breaking news into the USA News desk here in Delray Beach, Florida,
oh yeah, what's that?
South Florida. It was 87 degrees here, but it feels like it's 91 degrees Fahrenheit.
Good lord!
Woo! It's a scorcher here in South Florida, as usual.
Yeah,
We don't get spring. We go straight into summer. So here we are. It's just
yeah,
not 103, feeling like 115 degrees yet.
I love it.
That's coming.
It can be pretty intense in the summertime. Although I'll tell you what, I love the heat, man. I miss it sometimes. I really like the summers over here and the winters in Florida. That's living the
Yep.
dream. So let me show you this picture right here. Oh, okay. That's the bizarre zone. Check this out. So this is a picture sent
Whoa.
in from one of our listeners today, sent in from Chris, one of our listeners, and he was live on the ground in downtown Oslo, and he basically sent me this message. Oh, I can't zoom in for some reason, but he sent me this message of, you know, what the hell is going on here? He said there's probably an estimated, like, in this park about, I don't know, 300 to 500 people, all very close to each other. This is in an area called Grunelaka in downtown Oslo. It's just a very populated area, and this is not good. This is not good at all. This is
Oh, now wait a second
terrifying.
though. Hold on. Did in our last broadcast you were talking about seeing the prime minister and
Yeah.
her wanting to lift the sanctions, or I mean the restrictions? Pardon me.
Yep.
Did she do that? Is this the after effects of the ban being lifted?
No, this is
No.
and I tell you what, I think I said it on this broadcast. I know I've been saying it a lot lately. This is what happens before. Okay? Like, I knew it. I mean, I know the mentality of the
Called it.
people. I knew, yeah,
Yeah,
I called this shit, man. Like,
you did.
I knew once Easter happened, this was going to be the test, not just in Norway, but around the world. But it's like once Easter weekend happened, I knew it was going to be like, this is going to be the test. Can people handle it or can they not handle it? And they can't handle it. They can't
Wow.
handle it. And
Wow.
they think, oh, life's just supposed to, they still don't get it. And,
Wow.
and then, and then right around the same time, the prime minister announced that they were going to lift slowly start lifting the restrictions of
Right.
like, you know, they're going to open up kindergartens next week and elementary schools. And then the week after that, they're going to open up high schools. And I said, you know what? That's it. People are just like, oh, going to get all loosey goosey, because in general, it's all loosey goosey in here right now. And just to give you a little background of the person that took this photo, like, you know, he grew up in Spain, and he said to me, you know, down in Spain right now, like I know people down there, and he's like, you know, they're breaking up, you know, they're ticketing people in, you know, groups of, you know, in small groups, you know, sitting in the park, and they're driving around in police cars, and like, you know, police are ticketing people. You know, they've got like canines and stuff to like scare people away, because, and it's like, yeah, but you know what the thing is, and this is the problem, man, because I know we've talked about this a lot on the show, is about like, you know, civil liberties and freedom and all this great stuff, but it's like
Right.
people just can't handle the freedom. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
because here in Norway, I was telling my friend who sent this picture, and we were discussing. We were saying it's kind of like how they treat the children at kindergarten here. Here at kindergarten, it's very loosey goosey. It's very like loose parenting. It's very much like, oh yeah, let the children do what they want. Like, don't, you know, don't give them a lot of rules and structures. Just kind of let them do it, and they'll figure it out on their own. And it's like we're living in a giant kindergarten right now. They're just kind of like, it's scary, dude. Like the only thing I can say that is probably working towards the advantage of Norwegian like numbers right now when it comes to coronavirus is two things. It's probably the fact that in general, a lot of people are just like social recluses. I mean, these are people out enjoying, but there's unfortunately still a lot of people at home. So maybe these will be the people that get the coronavirus next in the next site of the next outbreak. So that might be working to the advantage. And also the fact that we do have a very high rate of testing and a good healthcare system. So if you do get screwed, then you get, you know, taken care of. And we don't have a lot of people going to work right now. But man, this is not good. This is not good. This is scary as fuck. You know?
That is just it it's part of what this whole pandemic has done, at least for me internally, how it's changed me. And I've never, ever, ever, and you've known me for a really, really, really long time, BoTik, and in the 2 decades that we've known each other, you know, I've never been one to shy away from going to a park like that, or a crowd. I mean, nothing.
Absolutely.
Like my my anxiety levels are through the roof just seeing that picture and thinking of what that is and what that could mean. And I don't know if it's the fear mongering playing into my head, and you know, too much of the news and reading articles and what have you, but or me getting lost in my own space in my brain. But I think some of it is legitimate, and I think some of it is okay to feel because of what we see is the outcome. If you're doing these things and you're not adhering to what we need to be doing right now in order to stop or at least bring down the curve. So what has been the whole point of us bringing down the curve? I think most people feel that it's to save lives, and it is. And I'm not saying it's not. It absolutely is. But it's also really to limit the push in the hospital, in the healthcare system, and to allow them to at least have a sustained flow that has enough supplies and everything available for it to kind of make its way through. This right now at this juncture, seeing that to me is too early. And
Absolutely.
we're having these discussions now here in America as we start to make a turn. And if it's okay, if I can segue to some numbers here while I
Bring it
discuss.
on. I just want
So
to say one thing too, just
yes,
to
please.
interject, like what you said in the beginning when you a few minutes ago was, you know, it's. I mean, I think most of this is not us being crazy. It's not in my head or in your head or something like that. I mean, dude, we know how fucking viruses work. It's not. It's not. We know
Right.
how. We know. We all took algebra. We know how exponents work. You know what I mean? Like, you know. We all saw Wayne's World, like, and then you tell someone and they tell two people and so on and so on. And then the next thing you know, everybody's got the dirty laundry, or in this case, everybody's got their dirty your dirty germs all over their, fucking face. You know what I mean? It's
Sprayed.
I'll say this, and sorry, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but I'll say this:
No, you're good.
whenever they start, whatever they do, I'm I'm gonna adhere to it like minimum. Like I'm gonna try to do this a minimum month later. If they say, okay, everybody, it's fine to go to concerts again, I'm gonna be like, all right, y'all go do that for a month. Let me see if the next outbreak happens, and then I'll be with you. You know what I mean? Or maybe
That's smart. That's smart. I'll,
yeah.
I'll be on that train too. But I think you have the ability over there to do that with more peace of mind than I do here, for sure. We don't
Interesting.
have the testing. We don't have
Mm,
the infrastructure. We don't have the protective equipment. We don't have things in place
mhm.
anywhere near where some other areas of the world or where we need to be in order for us to be able to start opening up and bringing back things that entertain us and in mass gatherings and things that we could all do together again. We're still a ways away from that. And I think there's probably states in middle America that don't have as much of a population, that don't have as much of a exposure risk, definitely have less of a healthcare system in place than maybe some larger metropolitan areas. Uh, these areas, of course, in Middle America, are much more rural and harder to access some of the more top line equipment than some of these metropolitan areas might have. However, those areas, 20 some odd states, I think I heard that they're going to start talking. They've started talking. And here's just a little update of on the ground as well. Their governors coming together on their own and kind of making their own pact together. So primarily all Democratic governors and all Northeastern governors, and then the 3 states on the West Coast have done this as well, that they have their own little zones and that they will coordinate together in those zones on what they do for when they open, how they open, what they do, and what the threshold is for them to open. So that when Trump, if everyone saw, if our listeners and viewers saw that Trump said this week, he has total authority. I think people, and I got scared seeing that just as that in of itself. He backed off from that, and really he can't do shit. There's nothing that he can do. It's totally up to the governors. He can give a directive until he's blue in the face, but that's not going to be able to change what the governors can do. So this is why the governors are getting together and kind of making their own thing and doing their own thing. But
Yeah, that's good
we
that they're doing that at
oh, go
least.
ahead. What?
I was just saying, I'm glad to hear that they're at least trying to make some kind of regional coordination.
Yeah, because the federal government ain't doing shit when it comes to that. So I mean, someone's got to step up and do something. So all right, here we go. Let's see.
Bring it on. By the way, everybody, I see we got some people down watching the live stream. Feel free to drop your questions or comments. We would love to entertain them during the live stream today.
Very good.
Bring it on.
We love you guys. Thank you to all of our beautiful fans. You're so beautiful. We love you. Share, tell all your friends.
Yeah,
Bring all.
please, everybody, please feel if you just while Screaming Eagles bringing this up, please help us out a little if you can by just dropping the link for this channel, this live stream on any of your social media accounts right now. It'd be great to spread the word.
Thank you. Thank you. If you do that, we appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
So, as we can see here, this has been the website that we continually go to and that we will continually reference. This is what the federal government is now using primarily. This is kind of what everyone's using, their metrics here. So, this is as of 2 days ago. So, it's a little behind. The United States reached its peak of resource use on April 10th. So we're now 5 days past that. Let's see if there are projections here. So the peak, we're kind of supposed to be getting over that, at least nationwide. Deaths per day. So this is definitely behind. I want to say that we hit the over 2,000 mark. Yeah, here, April 10th. And I think we've sustained that the past couple of days. So we're kind of staying in the medium but we're not going all the way up here to the projected, what could have been the projected top of 7,000 deaths a day. Thank God. And we were talking pre-show that I mentioned that one Mr. Rush Limbaugh had said that if we never did social, like that, the forecast numbers are bullshit because we never saw the high amount of numbers that they had said we were going to see with these forecasts. Well, the whole reason why is because we did social distancing. For people out there that don't listen to anything else other than people like Rush and don't have multiple sources, do some research on your own, please. We beg of you, because that's not the case. And as you can see, so total deaths, this said, now we're going to fact check this a little bit. So today is the 15th. So obviously the day is not over here yet in the United States, but this has a projected total 28,000 deaths. And then, excuse me. So now here's the John Hopkins heat map. And United States has 614,000 confirmed cases and total deaths. Why can't I see that? So sorry here. Pardon. I think it's just showing New York. That's Illinois. Whoop. Whoop. $27,787. And then this said, so it's pretty close. I mean, this said 28,000 by today. So this seems to be pretty legitimate, I would say. I mean, even again, that this is a couple days behind. Florida here on the ground in Florida. The peak resource use date, okay, that's holding firm. It had moved, this had moved to April 21st. It was May 3rd for a while, then they moved it up, and then now they moved it back to May 3rd, which still, I still need, and you know, if you have any opinion to share on this, BoTik, please do, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it's going to be when we're under stay-at-home order, as you can see, since April 3rd.
Yeah.
That we're supposed to have peak resource use in 18 days. But if people are home, how, I don't get it. And maybe because they figured starting from this date forward that it's going to take those 2 weeks or so of people staying at home from this date forward, that maybe those infections are still out there. And that's my assumption, is that they're basing it off of this April 3rd date, and not anything prior, like when educational facilities were closed on March 17th, or just a gradual decline of things closing as we have seen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, does that make sense? I think that's probably where that's coming
So
from.
they're saying by May 3rd, all of Florida's hospital resources will be exhausted.
That not fully exhausted. So this chart, what this line here is, this purple line going across, this is total beds available in the state. And that's the ceiling.
Wow.
And the projected numbers down here of total beds needed at the top of the projections was 13,000. So we'd still have a nice, 7,000 bed cushion pretty much in the state. But the median number around May 3rd is 4,000 beds, close to 1,100 ICU beds, with about 1,700 total in the state, and a need of about 1,000 ventilators to have. So I think we're going to be all right. I think resource-wise, we're set up to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
And to get over on the other side of the curve. And then deaths, been a little up and down, obviously, as you can see here. 77, then it dipped down to 6. Is that right? My goodness. Something's up with the reporting of numbers here. So
Yeah, I mean,
tough.
it's so, I think it's so difficult too with this illness to keep all the records straight. I mean, we really don't know what the numbers are because, I mean, number
Right.
one, you have to be tested. And I
Yeah.
think still the case is in most places around the world that if you're not exhibiting like extreme symptoms, then you might not even get tested. You might just be stay home, you know?
Very
Um,
true.
and then all the people that, for example, all the people that don't make it to the hospital, people who are living alone, elderly people, homeless people, yeah, people on the like maybe like undocumented people that aren't going to end up going to the hospital or like seeking help. So I mean, it's so hard to really no, because then there's also a lot of reports coming out that, people have died and nobody really knows why they died, but it's suspected maybe they had coronavirus. So it's just
Yeah.
how many people actually end up in those beds is hard to tell, or
That's
how
very
many people
true. That's
should
a good
end up in
point.
those beds. Yeah.
That's a good point because we're still severely undertested. There's antibody tests that are in the works that they're going to try to get out as quickly as possible. But there's still some snags with that, so I'm not sure of exact timeframes with that. But as you can see here, there's been 3,138,413 tests administered in the United States total.
Mm.
Florida has 205,000, New York almost 500,000, and total confirmed is 614. Be nice to see what that number would be compared to testing, who was tested to compare to what their other numbers are. Maybe I can look that up here. But recovered total in the U.S. is 51,000 out of the 614,000 confirmed. So yeah,
Yes.
man, looking red, looking hot over here, looking hot.
It's kind of interesting though too, because I heard this the other day. It says if you look at the US map right now, because especially along I would say more on the right wing side of things, there's lots of conspiracies about how the coronavirus is fake, and this is like something, Trump was touting this for a while, how it's like something created by the Democrats to like get him again, and yada
Yeah,
yada yada. And what's crazy about that is that if you look at the places where the coronavirus is having the strongest outbreaks, New York, LA, Seattle. I mean, of course, it's big cities where people are living close together and there's lots of international in and out and blah, blah, blah. Then it's also the same places where people are, voting more left wing or voting more like Democrat. And it is like the perfect kind of stage has been set to fuel this kind of conspiracy, to like confirm this kind of conspiracy, because it's only slowly starting to make it out to like the more rural areas of
yeah.
the United States and stuff like that. Uh, so
Now look at this. Look at this real quick. This is new. I haven't really played around with this. So testing rate, almost 1,000 per 100,000 residents. 1,000 tests per 100,000. So Florida's lagging in testing. Louisiana, wow.
yeah, it'd
A
be
smaller
interesting.
population, but they got a lot going there.
Well, can this go over to a place like South Korea? Because I'd be interested to just like cross compare from like US to like a place that's kind of on the forefront of testing, a place like South Korea. I'd be interested to see what the population per.
I don't think they have those numbers for the testing rate.
Okay,
But
interesting.
maybe it's only American.
What about these countries over here to the left, like Spain? Are you able to see what's going on there? Or is it just in the United States?
I think that's just U.S. with the testing
Okay.
rate, hospitalization.
Interesting. All right, we're gonna have to find another one of these maps so we can do some cross
But
comparisons.
now
It'd be
here,
very.
yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, we definitely would. I would like to see that as well.
Yeah, because I'd be interested, because I mean different countries are taking different methods. Because like I said, like over here in Norway, we got a ton of we have a ton of testing. I know Norway's having some of the most testing going on in the world, but there's still not everybody is being tested.
Correct. South Korea case fatality ratio 2%. That's pretty low.
Yeah, South Korea has done a tremendous job. They didn't really have to shut down the country very much. They just did a lot of testing, and they use these tracking apps to inform the people who is at risk and what they should do if they're at risk, and they've kind of saved their economy, I think. And also
Much higher in Europe. Look at these numbers.
Oh,
I mean, here, hold on. France, 13%, Belgium 13, and Netherlands almost 12, UK 13.
What is this, the fatality ratio?
This is case fatality ratio. Norway is on par with South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, so it definitely shows that testing is an important part of the process.
Incredible. So, actually, let's see Iran. 6%. So they've kind of moved on. But yeah, so that's pretty much it from the USA News Desk as far as updates on the ground and the numbers updates here.
Okay, just go back. Can you go back to all right, no, that's cool. It's cool.
I'll go back there. Hold on.
No, just go back to Norway for a second. Let's look at those stats real quick. Go back to Norway.
Good old Norway. So 2.2%.
And then let's see what's happening in Italy. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Italy now. Yeah.
13% case fatality. There are 165,000 confirmed, 21,000, almost 22,000 deaths, 38,000 recovered, still 105,000 active cases. Norway, only 150 deaths, 32 recovered, still a lot of active cases here.
Yeah, it's really crazy now what's happening in Europe, because in Europe we're having the situation now where actually, it's very surprising. It's not, I mean, I think over here in Europe we have the benefit of having pretty strong social welfare systems and pretty strong healthcare systems. So this has helped out a lot in this whole coronavirus case. But I am pretty shocked at the same time. Here, I'm just gonna unlock the screen. Here we go. I'm pretty shocked at the same time about the kind of chaos that's happening over here. For example, Italy was the hardest hit. Norway was pretty hard hit but everything. I mean, sorry, Norway, Spain, everybody's kind of like starting to taper off a little bit. Next door to us in Sweden, we have them like surging right now because they did absolutely nothing, and those are our like next door neighbors. So now we're coming into the issue where everybody's like kind of doing their own thing, and it's a bit scary. Like I would like a bit more regional cooperation going on. Like for example, so we have the Schengen zone here in Europe, and for those of you out there that aren't familiar with the Schengen zone is this area of European countries. I won't go deep into it because it's kind of hard to explain which countries, but let's just say, you could kind of consider it like the border of the United States with all the states inside. Well, over here we've got the Schengen zone, and it's divided up between the different countries. But typically, if you're a European citizen and part of the Schengen zone, which is like over 25 different countries, you're able to freely move between these countries. And this is how it's pretty much been for like the last I think like 40 years. And for the first time, we're having like very extreme cases where a lot of the borders are being closed. And for example, here in Norway, they just announced that they're going to keep the border here closed until May 5th, which doesn't sound like very long. So at first I was just like, oh, okay, that's not so long actually. But it turns out that you can, every 20 days you can extend it, and then you can extend it up for like I think a period of 2 months. But then we have other countries around Europe who are closing their borders already till the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like
How
I
they
think
get away with that?
it's part of some it's part of some certain laws where under extreme circumstances you can close your borders. It's very rare that these laws are enacted, like of like, you know, national security kind of issues. So it's the first time Denmark, they're going to keep their borders closed, I believe, until like the autumn. France, Sweden says they're going to keep it closed, I think, at least until October. So I mean, it's going to be really strange in the future. And you know, I think this is interesting for both of us because I'm gonna just bring this article up real quick. Let's see. Yeah. So this might be interesting because we all work in the tourism, or we used to used to work in the
Used
used
to, that's right.
used to work in the
Used to.
tourism sectors. So yeah, check.
Not anymore.
Yeah, so check this out. I know everybody loves to go to Europe in the summertime, and this is the word now from the president of the European Commission, basically like kind of the president of the European Union. Yeah, so this is just from yesterday. The president warns against making travel plans to the European Union this summer.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, because how you? I mean, it's a disaster right now. Countries are still blowing up. I mean, Spain's still blowing up. At the same time, they're loosening their regulations. Norway's loosening their regulations. All these places are just kind of like on different timelines. Not everybody's coordinating together. And how are you supposed to come over here to do any kind of business, not just tourism, but like any kind of business? And later that day, on the same day, or this was just yesterday, they made another announcement, or I think it might have been during the same speech, where they said, we don't even suggest that you travel within Europe. Like they just want people to stay on their vacation or do whatever you want in your home countries this summer. So this is terrible for any kind of business, especially the tourism industry. I don't think we'll be back in business anytime soon.
No.
But it also, I mean, what I find so interesting, because a lot of people probably blow off the tourism industry a lot of the time, just thinking, oh, it's this kind of you know, luxury, frivolous thing, but it's really turned to be kind of the thermometer of the state of the world in many ways. Because I mean,
Right.
you know, if tourism's doing good, then you know, like, you know, things are going good for a lot of people around the world, because that means people are being successful, they're making money, we have a lot of free movement, it's showing that countries are getting along because we can use our passports wherever and stuff like that. And of course that applies mostly to the more developed countries, more privileged countries. But now the state of tourism is crap, and the state of all of our borders, all of our cooperations is total crap now. And it doesn't look good for the foreseeable future. I mean, we can't even go next door to Sweden. You know, we can't go over to Lithuania. We can't go anywhere. So it's pretty
People in
crazy.
Michigan can't even go across the street to their
Yeah.
neighbor's house.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, this is what has to be done right now. Like, dude, I don't want to go to Sweden, and I don't want people from Sweden coming over here right now because they decided that they weren't gonna take care of themselves over there, or at least the government was deciding, which I think is pretty terrible, and also terrible for the businesses because I mean, at least over here they tell us that we got to close down, and there is some help. Maybe it's not enough, but there's some help coming from the government. But over there it's just like, business as usual, and like people are sitting there having to make this decision, like, should I go out, should I not go out, like, does this mean this is real, are we like the smartest country, or are we the dumbest country, like, what's, you know, should I support the businesses because they still have to be in business? Like, it's a mess. And what else is interesting is I'm gonna stop the share for a second. We've got this other problem starting to bloom up right now over here in Europe. You know, because I love the idea of the European Union, and I think it's a beautiful idea after World War II and after really 1,000 years of the Europeans kind of battling each other, from being tribal communities to city states to kingdoms to countries, is that we all decided to kind of get along here as the European Union. There's a lot of beautiful programs, a lot of beautiful educational programs, a lot of exchange between businesses and all these kinds of things. It's a very beautiful idea. But when it comes down to like finances and supporting each other in solidarity, there's still some major problems going on. And a lot of times they're considered discriminatory practices. And I'm just going to give you a little example real quick in the example of Italy. because Italy, as we know, has been, kind of the epicenter of the corona crisis here in Europe. And Italy's getting like increasingly scratchy with the help that they've been getting from the European Union. The prime minister, I'll show you a picture of this guy. So, the prime minister, he's where is it? Yeah. So the prime minister, he's reaching out. He was in this interview with the BBC, and he's they're saying the EU could fail over this virus, warns Italy's prime minister. This guy Giuseppe Conte. I'm not, to be honest, so familiar with his politics, so I don't want to like make too much commentary about that. But what he's saying basically is like the European Union is not helping us out enough. Now, meaning that Italy's going into a lot of debt right now because of all the problems that they're having with coronavirus and how it's like overwhelming the systems and like the welfare systems, the unemployment.
But they were already. I'm sorry to interrupt. They were already a mess beforehand.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, the southern countries haven't recovered since the last financial crisis.
Right. And Germany doesn't want to feed them any more money than they've already been feeding them, because Germany basically is carrying the EU between them and France pretty much. But I mean, it's primarily Germany, I would say, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Germany, claims that it's never gonna loan out money to any other countries, but of course, Germany is usually in some form or another kind of one of the major countries that is giving a lot of money to the European Union, and therefore always sitting at the big table and making help, always at the decision making table and holds a lot of weight. But so what they've been asking for over here is that instead of just taking more loans from the European Central Bank, they really want they've been wanting to start these kind of like Corona bonds. And this has been an idea. There's some countries that are like in support of this. There's a group of, I'm trying to find it. Well, there's a group of like 9 countries. I know Ireland's in there, some other countries, and they're supporting this idea of Corona bonds, where the European Union countries as a whole take on the debts of the countries that are having trouble. And there's about 9 countries that agree with this, but there's about 4 countries that disagree with it. The 4 countries are Germany, Netherlands, Finland, and I can't remember the other one right now. But anyway, so it's quite wealthier countries in the EU. That's quite interesting, and the problem that I have with this, what really frustrates me about this, is that if you look at things like the Corona crisis, if you look at things like and I know I'm monologuing here, so feel free to jump in.
No, keep going, man. No, you're in hot fire.
So the problem with this, that I've had a problem with for a long time, is it reminds me very much of the influx of refugee in the southern border of Europe. I mean, in the refugee situation, a lot of countries did not step in Europe to take on their kind of like quota of refugees that were coming through the southern border. They're just like letting I mean, a lot of refugees have the right to be here. They have the right to claim asylum and stuff like that. But it's just not practical for the southern areas of Italy and Greece and Spain to take on all these people. And a lot of other countries didn't want to fulfill their quotas. And now it's like the same problem. I mean, it's not Italy's fault that it is like geographically positioned in this area that is like, close to a place where there's close to a lot of conflict zones, like in the case of like the refugee crisis, which by the way is still happening right now, despite the fact that only everybody's talking about coronavirus right now. But when you look at the coronavirus, it's like, man, I looked into it and it's very interesting actually. So and this also relates to tourism. So the first couple cases of coronavirus were found in Italy on, where is it? Yeah, in Italy on like January 25th. And one was from somebody that traveled to Wuhan and then came back to Italy. I think was an Italian resident, and then another was 2 Chinese tourists. They were tested positive in Rome, I believe. And here's the thing about Italy. Now, Italy just happens to be positioned in the south. And where do people, other than if you want to go see the Northern Lights up here in Norway, where do people like to go in the winter time when this virus is is most like rampant is in the wintertime. So I mean, Italy is the most traveled to country by Chinese tourists in the southern part of Europe. As you can see right here, like on this map, this shows you like where Chinese people are, traveling to. This is from 2018, and yeah, down here, Italy #1. Okay, so like tons of Chinese tourists are going to Italy just at the same time, right around when this virus came to Italy, was right around the Chinese New Year. So it's the biggest time for people to travel in China out of the entire year. And of course, a lot of these people are going to go on vacation. They're going to go to Europe, especially the people that actually have wealth in China and they're able to get passports to leave and come over to Europe. And they're going to go to Italy. So once again, it's not Italy's fault that Italy happens to be in the warm part of Europe during the winter time. And it's not Italy's fault that, yeah, of course, that means they're going to attract tourists and they're going to attract tourists from China, which is some of the biggest groups of tourists that we have here in Europe in the first place. So,
Right.
and the thing is just also around that same time is when all of the people from Northern Europe have their winter break, and then they went down to Italy because they all want to go to the warm weather. They go down to Italy, they go down to Spain, they cough all over the place, they spread it around there, and then they bring it back up to the northern countries. It all fits in with the timeline of how coronavirus has passed throughout Europe. So, I mean, Italy makes a good case when they say we should get some more help from the European Union because they're basically like at the front lines of all this shit. They're at the front lines of conflict zones where lots of refugees are coming to seek asylum into Europe, and they're at the front lines of like the warm weather, wintertime tourism zone. I mean, maybe if it was a different time of the year, the tourists would have gone somewhere else, and there would have been an outbreak in like the outbreak could have started in the UK or something like that. Who knows? But so
Sure, and I think that same idea flows to what happened here in the United States, at least in Florida, with the spring breakers on the beach. And then I saw there was a heat map that some guy did based off of cell phone data that they took from Fort Lauderdale Beach. And then it showed how people just on Fort Lauderdale Beach, how much it's spread out and went up into the Michigan area and went up into the Northeast. And so it definitely helped bring it up into those areas. So it's exactly the same thing that you were saying there too. So
yeah, I mean, it really travels with like the mass movements of the people.
Right.
It's
While I bring this up here, you got any comments, questions from our viewers? How's everyone doing out there? Please feel free to get interactive with us.
we got some comments from our viewers. Somebody thinks Brock is really cute.
Hey, thank you. I'm a guy, so hopefully it's my wife. But
great stuff, guys. You guys are great.
Awesome. We appreciate it. We love you guys. Thank you.
Lots of love, please.
So this was also something I heard on Rush today. Was
bring it in the Rush. he's our source of progressive contradiction.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta hear what's going on over there. And he was talking about this today in Michigan. So these protesters are protesting the lockdown. So here we go. So thousands of protesters against the governor's stay-at-home order blocked the streets earlier today on the 15th. So here, let's see what was happening outside. Sorry for the pixelation there.
Oh, this is great.
So they did drive-bys. But there's something I want to show you because you'll see who's out there. So lots of sounds like New York City on a good day. Take a look very closely, everybody. Take a look very closely at the background and what flag is waving. Oh, what flag is that? That's a Confederate flag with a Trump flag.
What the fuck?
Upside down American flag.
Well, and they're protesting the lockdown.
Correct. They're protesting the infringement of their rights because of the lockdown.
Oh my God.
Shut up, Whitmer. Shut up. Here we go. There's this
disgusting. What the fuck?
Come in. Hold on. There was another one.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
Needs to get out of their house. So, okay, this is the event. Now there's a lot of things here. There's a lot to unpack. So just follow me.
All right, I'm with you. Let's go.
The Facebook event was organized by the Michigan Conservative Coalition, and it encouraged people to drive down Lansing, which I assume is the street in front of the Capitol, or to drive to Lansing. Excuse me, Lansing is the city. Pardon me, and create a traffic jam in the city.
Lansing, Michigan.
Correct. Vehicles up and down the Capitol.
Yep.
So Allegan is essentially blocked. That's the street. Oops. So this is what it said on the Facebook event. Everyone, every citizen, every business owner needs to get out of their house, out of their chair, and get in their car or truck or anything that is legal to drive on taxpayer-funded roads. Then drive to Lansing to circle the Capitol at high noon on April 15th.
Oh, God.
The event page was encouraged protesters to honk their horns while in the city. The governor, Governor Whitmer, decided this week that toughen was already one of the nation's most strict stay-at-home orders. They rank among the highest in the country in confirmed cases of the virus. Her decision was quickly met with backlash from Republicans in the state's government. The Senate Majority Leader saying that it's destroying our health by killing our livelihoods, that her order. Critics of Whitmer's order argue certain businesses like landscaping and golf courses should be able to operate again. It's Michigan in the middle of April. I don't know who the hell's going golfing. Jesus Christ. Landscaping I can see. So here's some more people outside of their cars, not following social distancing. Pardon again for the pixelation. Oh, there it came.
It's just like watching it's like
the picket line is thick.
Jeez.
Oh, look all back there. Follow my mouse cursor, everybody.
This is like watching it. Watching what is it like? Watching a car, a car wreck. It's just like
all these people here. I mean, just looks like what was going on. I mean, look, and this is their God-given right, and I'm not talking shit about that at all. And let them. This is what America is all about. They have the freedom to do that. Just that we don't really have the freedom to assemble. So this is the new way to assemble right now while we're all under these suspended rules. But this is what I really wanted to show here too, was this guy. So just shows you yet again what we saw. MAGA. So Michigander against Gretchen's abuses. Gretchen is the governor. Open Michigan. # Open Michigan.
This is silliness. This is total.
No step on snack.
But here's the thing though. Like, I mean,
no masks. By the way, no masks. No mask. No masks. No mask. No mask. No mask. No mask. They at least look like they're covered over there. No mask. Like, here, I prefer dangerous liberty over peaceful slavery. I think that puts it all wrapped up in perspective.
But this is fucked up though. You know why? Because, and I know this is like we always end up in the civil liberties section of the show.
Hard not to. Sorry. Folks.
I know. No, but it's important. It's so important though, because this is the thing. I was thinking about this a lot, since our last show, and I was just thinking, the thing is this is fucked up. And although no matter what a law states or what people can always do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can always really do whatever you want to do. So like liberty is something that can't really be given to you, and it can't really be a right. It can't really be taken away. You know what I mean? But
Intangible.
it's intangible. It's also a
Correct.
fantasy. If you're gonna let a country or a constitution or something like that give you liberty, then you've already, I think, given it up, because you've given it to somebody else to give it back to you. The thing is like, think about this: a lot of our liberties in any country are restricted. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, if you knowingly, I was reading about this, like if you knowingly carry like the HIV virus, okay, you can't go around and give it to other people. You know, that's illegal. It's illegal to like go around and give that to other people. If you are drunk, you can't drive a car. Now, of course, you can still get in a car and drive, but you might kill other people. Like, you might,
You're going to go to prison
go
forever.
to
I mean,
prison. You're going to be fined
but
$10,000. You're
that's
going to lose
the
all this stuff.
okay.
So what I mean is like, if if we're gonna live in a world where things like a coronavirus is so terrible that it can kill other people, you know what I mean? Like, there's people sitting in the hospital that I know, like our
Yep.
our family, friends, whatever, know that because of fuckers like this. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I mean, these people are deadly. You know what I mean? You can pretty much guarantee, if a big crowd gets together around, you can put your money down right now. If a big crowd gets together, there's going to be an outbreak, maybe a small outbreak. If a church gets together and there's 80 people in the congregation, 45 of them get infected. I mean, this shit is deadly. So, I mean, I always say, I don't know I don't know what the correct answer is at this point in time, but it's definitely something that humans really need to reckon and wrestle with and take seriously, because there are laws in place for a lot of different kinds of things, and there very well could be laws in place for this kind of stuff in the future. A good example would be, like, for example, if you have you can get a breathalyzer connected to your car, and
Right.
if you're on probation, you can't start the car without going using the breathalyzer first. There's this like your car just won't turn on unless you test properly. I mean,
Right.
I could see, and I don't know, I don't have a problem. I don't know if I would have a problem with that idea. I think that sounds like, I mean, if we have rampant diseases that are rampant, I mean, we don't want to use technology and we don't want to use laws to invade our privacy, but we do want to use them to help us, as they've done in the past with all the other laws. So when I see like people like this going around, I'm like, all right, yeah, of course you can do that. But I mean, there are places around the world right now, if you go and do that, you're going to get a ticket, you're going to get fined, you might, because you're a public threat, you know, like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, there's people right now sitting around conspiring about like biological warfare and stuff like that. And then the same people that are like conspiring about biological warfare are the same people out in the streets spreading germs. Like, I don't know, and waving the fucking Confederate flag, which has nothing to do with anything.
There was something else on there. I couldn't see it, but yeah, I mean it
It's
was the
like fucking dude. It's so crazy, man. Like, just a little. I know this is really going off on a tangent now, and I also know that the show is probably should get wrapped up soon. But the Confederate flag, we should do a whole episode on this. Sometimes it's
we'll
fucking
do a fireside
ridiculous.
chat about
Oh
it.
my god, dude! Like, dude, you can. Don't you find it interesting that you can wave the Nazi flag, like the swastika, like the fucking flag that represents the death of, like, our people, like, in America. But when you go to Germany, where that shit came from, it's fucking illegal, man. Like,
Right.
they don't play around with that shit. You know what I
Right.
mean? The
Right.
fucking Confederate flag, the flag that represents like 400 years of like death and oppression of African people, the transportation of people on boats like cattle over to America. Man, fuck that shit. It's like to me, it's like waving a Nazi flag. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
and the other side of that, the other where people come from with that, just for maybe some of our international friends or even some of our domestic friends here that might not have a full amount of knowledge on this, just from what I have seen and read. So it's all because of Southern heritage and the lineage of being Southern. And now that's Michigan, so obviously that's not in the South.
Yeah.
But the mindset and the ideas based around that are obviously still very prevalent around the country and amongst majority of Trump supporters. I mean, let's just be real. Now, I'm sure there's some anti-Semitic people on the left, not denying that at all. But I mean, look what you see. And then, so another thing here that I had highlighted, the Michigan Freedom Fund, which is a group with ties to the family of Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos,
Of course,
who is just an abysmal human being, Betsy DeVos, however you pronounce her pathetic last name, said that it spent $250 to promote the rally. So a Trump administration cabinet member is, behind it. I mean, it's the fact. So the Michigan Freedom Fund was a group listed as a co-host for the event. So let's see. So yeah, Whitmer, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be angry. So yeah, just things are getting hot out there, and people are starting to get a little tense out there. And so let's hope stuff like this doesn't grow. I get it. Okay. I get it. I get where they're coming from. To an extent, I empathize. And what I mean by that is that, look, I want to go back to being out and about. I want to be able to walk into a grocery store and feel safe. Like, I want to be able to go to a baseball game, and I want to be able to go to a concert. I want to do all these things. We just can't do that right now. And we're going to get over this. It's going to change. We're going to get back some of what we had before 6 weeks ago, a month ago. But it's not going to be ever again what it was in February in our life pre-virus. It's just not. So I think these people, and this is my total opinion, but I think that these people are expecting it to be February 2020 again, and to go back in time to when things were that, as far as what we can do and our freedoms and so forth. We'll have those freedoms back. I'm confident that we will. We'll be able to travel freely, assemble freely, have these basic rights that we're accustomed to having. We'll have those back, but it's going to look different. It's going to look different. It's going to be a different process for the safety of society. And until we get those things that we talked about, testing, accurate testing, mass volumes of testing, antibody testing, tracking, all these things that need to be implemented, we're nowhere close to having a consensus on what to do and how to do it. So if we start piecemealing all of that together, and let's say each state does something different and each state has a different tracking program than the other, and then how can one communicate to the other? Oh, if you don't have that certification, that's okay for this state, but this state said you're okay. It's going to be just this clusterfuck of shit that you're not going to be able to freely move. It needs to be a coordinated effort. It needs to be a federally coordinated effort in conjunction with the states. So that way we're all on the same page. We can all start flying again. We can all start traveling again. We can all start moving forward. And it's not going to be a flick of a switch. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to implement these things. There are things that are going to work. There are things that aren't going to work. We're going to have to try this. There's no playbook for this. We're literally writing this as we go. So there's going to be trial and error. And I think people just need to have some patience. Get their frustration. I get where they're coming from. Again, I can empathize with that, as far as that they're tired of being cooped up and they don't agree with some of these tight orders, and you can't go across the street. I get it. Okay. I totally do. but at least take precaution. These people didn't even have masks on. The president himself said, put on a mask. Okay.
Yeah.
Come
Dude,
on.
like,
So
yeah,
they're not
just
even
in,
taking the precautions. They're not even socially distancing. Like, I get you want to be out there and let your voice be heard. And if you got to do it in this climate, then do it properly. Do it properly in this climate. And I think they tried to, it looked like, by getting in their cars and doing it in their cars. But these pictures look like they were standing on the sidewalk all together and on the grass, and like a normal thing, a normal rally or so forth. Or what,
so
like,
just a few things I want to add to that. Is that, I mean, I can, I mean, now don't get me wrong here. I'm not empathizing with anybody waving Confederate flags, but I'll get back to that in a second.
no,
But
no, no,
but
I'm not. No, take it
yeah, I know
seriously.
you, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you are either. I just want to make sure before I say what I say, that's clear for the people out there.
Okay.
But I mean, I get what you're saying when I empathize. Of course, like I can totally empathize with like people being scared, people being confused, people like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and having these like I mean, this is an unprecedented time, which in this time we see all the weirdos coming out of the woodwork, and we see people's true personalities come out, and all the true colors are coming out, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, dude, these are all like I mean, it's a little scary how it is a little scary in some ways how frail people are. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, even these people like these people are frail because I mean, these guys, big dudes running around with their Trump flags or Confederate flags, they look like a bunch of tough guys, but really they're just scared and they're frail. You know what I mean? Like they're just they're and the thing is, we gotta be like grown up about this. And it's not just gonna take like the government helping us, and it's not just gonna take your church or your synagogue or like your local community center. I mean, it's gonna take everybody and every institute like being a little bit less selfish,
Yeah.
we take all these privileges that we live in that are very circumstantial, and we think that they're just like basic fundamental rights. But if you read through human history, you can know that humans and the advantages that humans have and the disadvantages that humans have very much more to do with circumstance and just where you happen to randomly be born, or what kind of genetic makeup you randomly had, rather than like, yes, I'm like, this is me, I'm automatically given all these rights and privileges. Like, we live in a very diverse world, and this is a time where the world needs to work together. If the world can work together, then we have a chance of making out of this successfully. If the world can't work together, a lot of people gonna die. A lot
Yeah.
of people gonna die. A lot of people. And to add to that, fuck the Confederacy and fuck Nazis. Like, I got no respect for those people.
Yeah. I
like,
mean, look, hey,
those motherfuckers. Like, just so everybody knows, if you like to wave Nazi flags, then and I don't give a fuck if it's your right or privilege. That means you're down with people being burned alive in ovens. And if you are down with the Confederate flag, because I know I'm from the United States and I see these motherfuckers everywhere, like with their Confederate flags on their belts and on the underwear and on the t-shirts, and it's like a big
right.
fucking joke. It's like, yes. So if you're down, like, if anybody out there thinks the Confederate flag is cool, or you think it's like a cool thing to wave it, just so you know, when you're waving the Confederate flag, that doesn't just represent like your grandpa or great grandpa who fought in the war or some bullshit. It also represents the fact that you are down with putting people in fucking boats, dragging them out of wherever they were living and enslaving them on plantations for generations and generations to come, and the systematic brutalization and oppression of Black people to this day. So I mean, if you're into like Southern heritage and shit, go to fucking Cracker Barrel, eat some. I love macaroni and cheese, man. Like, I don't like to eat chicken, but I like I like fried stuff and okra and like sweet tea, and I love hanging out down by the Chattahoochee. and neon rainbows and all that shit. I love the South. I'm from the South. We're all from the South, but man, got to get off that shit. Anyway, sorry, I'm just
I
ranting a little
agree
bit.
with you. No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, people
We
like
should.
that.
I actually we should move on before we end up. We did get actually one. We got a question,
Woo!
and
Thank you, everybody.
it actually segues into the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and you might be interested too. And it's a bit more lighter topic, I would say. Is sports. We got a question from Glenn
Oh,
about
hey, hey, Glenn.
what about sports in this time. And maybe we can just jog this around for a couple minutes before we end up. Thanks for the question, Glenn.
So
Thanks for
what is the
listening.
question exactly?
Well, he
It's
just said like
sports.
what are your thoughts about getting back to sports? I think what Glenn means is I've seen a bit about this in the news lately about I sent you an article earlier today about like big events getting back together and what some sporting events are doing to like work around not being able to gather large amounts of people. So we had two cases I think we could check out real quick, which I thought
Oh,
was like pretty bizarre, which was with the World Wrestling uh
yeah, WWE. So okay,
WWE,
so a
and
few
then
things,
also the Major League Baseball was doing something. So
correct. So a few things to unpack with that question. I'd be happy to answer that. So
yeah.
with the WWE, so the state of Florida, the governor designated uh, sports as an essential business. So that means, what does that mean? That means that WWE can still get together and broadcast. So they have a facility in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken, Tampa or Orlando, that they broadcast recently WrestleMania from. So it was just their talent, it was just the wrestlers in their facility, no crowd, but the wrestlers were still obviously doing their thing and like interacting with one another. I didn't watch it. I used to be a big WWE fan, not anymore. But so that now gives them the ability to be able to have those events and to be able to broadcast those events and sell them and make money on TV, right? But it was a broad designation by DeSantis because he said all sports are essential. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to be able to have Major League Baseball, and this is MLB's idea that they're kicking around right now, is that they want, so the baseball season was supposed to start a few weeks ago at the end of March. That didn't happen, obviously. So they're still trying to figure out how they're going to begin their season and what is their season even going to look like. So the discussion is to have games at their spring training facilities in Arizona and Florida, have the teams there, have the teams basically on a lockdown, keep the teams all together. They're not allowed to go out. They're not allowed to interact with people, blah, blah, blah. They have to stay together, be tested frequently, and then they'll be able to compete and they'll be able to broadcast those games on live TV, but just no fans. So no one would be in the stands. Now it's a lot cheaper to run a spring training facility than it is to open up their major facilities, their major league facilities. So there's a cost savings there, but it also allows them to play the game on a field that they're more accustomed to playing on. But so here's a lot out of that. If one state starts doing it, and here again is what I said before about lack of coordination from a national level. If the state declares that sports are essential, then that means that they would be the only ones to host it. So let's take the NFL. So the NFL, they were supposed to be right now in the spring train, like they start training now. They start their spring organized team activities now, and they start getting together, their new teammates. They all start working out, learn the playbook, and get ready for training camp, which starts in July, and then games start in August, and then in September the season begins. So they're coming up on these moments having to start. So what are they going to do? There's talk also with NFL potentially playing games with no fans, but in their stadiums, in their home stadiums. So personally, I mean, I miss sports. I'm a sports nut, and it's been super duper depressing to not be able to turn on the TV and watch sports. There's also a lot of revenue. And I know your and I's focus is primarily on Main Street, but there are also bigger companies out there and bigger organizations out there that are bleeding money. And so this is impacting, the trickle down is impacted. So let's take Disney, for example, shutting down their parks, no travel, no tourism. They're furloughing 43,000 people that work in their parks. They're not making revenue off of that. There's no movies being shown. There's no production of movies being had. So that now has grinded to a halt. Another huge revenue stream for them. And then they also own ABC and ESPN. ESPN is the major sports broadcasting network here, 24-hour sports here in America. And that has no content. So they're trying to fill content on that channel with horse game, like the game of horse in basketball. They're trying all these like esports and race car drivers racing each other on video games and then basketball players playing tournaments. I mean, they're trying something to put something out there. Are people watching? I haven't seen the numbers of what those viewerships might be. I'm imagining it's like nothing. Now, do I think people will watch, and would I even watch a sporting event that had no fans? Yes. And I read something that said some poll, and I'm sorry I'm not able to quote what it is, but it was somewhere in the low 70% of people of this poll said that they would be just like me, that they'd want to watch something, even if it was the same players, same format, same everything, even if it wasn't an arena or a stadium filled with fans, that they would still want to watch the competition take place. And I think that would be a welcome reprieve for a lot of Americans and a lot of people internationally. NBA is very international. NFL's made some big international. So MLB is trying. I know in Asia, baseball is huge, in Japan. So there's a lot at stake here for them, but also for our mental well-being. I would love to see sports come back and to see some kind of action. There's a lot that needs to happen still in order for that to take place, and I don't know what that looks like. So bottom line, we will get back to sports. Sports will come back. Do I think we're going to see legitimately, because there's talk here, there's people who are saying that there's going to be no fall time sports. There's going to be no football. There's going to be no, like the NBA season starts in October. NHL starts in October. NHL and NBA haven't even finished their current season. How are they going to start the 2020, 2021 season? So there's still a long way to go before we figure out what these new seasons will look like. I think the NFL will lead the way in that regard because they have their season starting in the fall. They'll be the first ones, but these other leagues still have to finish what they had going. Major League Soccer, MLB hasn't even started like we just discussed. So some of these got to get off the ground, some of these got to wind down, and some of these are about to start getting off the ground. I think they're trying to work together. I know the president has a committee that he's put together, a sports committee, as part of some overall committee that he's making to reopen the country and how to reopen the country. So he's pulling together a lot of important people that are making decisions anyway and trying to get everyone on the same page. I think trying to get everyone on the same page. So let's see where this goes over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think we'll know a lot more by the end of this month on where things are going to be and what's the sports world going to look like moving forward. And I think this goes even internationally as well. And I know Premier League and La Liga and Bundesliga and Series A and all the crazy, awesome, amazing European football, soccer leagues, they stopped in the middle of their season. So it's, what are they going to do to bring it back? And maybe they're all looking to see what each other's going to do and how they're going to do it. And to me, bottom line, I think that the answer right now at this stage, play the games, make sure the players are safe, make sure the coaches are safe, the trainers, everything else. Play the games now in front of empty stadiums, and at least finish out your season. Finish that. Give us a mental break from the hell that we've all been seeing and dealing with. Give us something else to talk about. Bring back a little bit of a distraction for us in the fandom that is being a sports fan, and then we'll continue to go from there. I think that'll be a nice reprieve from what we've been dealing with. I think we're all clamoring for that. We want that, but there's still a lot that needs to happen in order for us to be able to get there, in order to move forward with a lot of those leagues.
Yeah, I think it's actually very interesting, this whole sports decision, because it is something that is so important to so many people.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking about it is, I mean, I found it also very interesting. I didn't know about all of this stuff that they're trying, like kind of like alternative takes on sports, like the race car.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. It made me think of something too, that I was like, well, I guess in Korea it's not such a big problem, because in Korea, do you know what the number one watch sport in Korea is?
I'm gonna take a wild guess, but I'm gonna say like cricket
Nope.
or polo.
World of Warcraft.
No way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know how it is now. It's just even bigger now. But when I used to live in Korea, they had two channels that two channels that were like 24 hours a day dedicated to people playing World of Warcraft.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They would set up
Wow.
giant like movie screens on the beach, and people would just sit out and watch World of Warcraft.
Wow.
And like these people that are like, they're like sports stars, and they get sponsorships from like, EA or whatever, and
Wow.
yeah, they're celebrities. And but so yeah, that's kind of just a little funny thing. And but one thing I thought about when I was reading about WWE and also Major League Baseball, like I find this like, I mean, me personally, I'm not like the hugest sports fan. Like I'm not like following it a lot, but I do like to follow like how it's socially working out. And The one thing that came to my mind is, it's kind of like, they had to shut down Broadway. You know what I mean? They had to shut down a lot of productions, a lot of movies being made, like all of these things. It's all different forms of like entertainment and fandom
Correct.
and stuff like that. And one thing we got to keep in mind, though, even when they have these, games that are not in front of a live audience and stuff like that, I mean, it still involves so many people, like, I mean, because when I was reading about how their plan for the WWE, they said, okay, and we're going to make sure that like everybody's being tested like before they come on the set and like all this stuff. But I mean, there's still hundreds of people involved, the people behind the camera. I mean, I know I used to work at these events. I used to
Right.
do filming for like basketball games and baseball games and stuff like that. And just like the amount of people that are involved behind the scenes is like way more than the people on the field,
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I know that it is one of these things that would just like really make so many people so happy. But I think that it's like, I don't. I don't know if it's essential. You know what I mean? I know it feels that way, but I think that, I mean, I know, and of course for like employment and all these big deals and all these big companies and all this trickle down stuff. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But I think it's similar to like the tourism industry and like all these other industries. It's like it's failing right now because it is so much based on seasonal work, so much based on like, those advertisements, those ticket sales, like all this kind of stuff. And I mean, of course, these are massive corporations, and I believe that the wife of what's his name, Vince McMahon, the
Yeah.
wife of Vince McMahon, is one of the big donors to Trump.
Yeah, they are.
And DeSantis is like a minion of Trump, and I'm sure they're all wrapped up in that. So I mean,
Absolutely.
although we as, let's say, fans or commoners or peasants or whatever, like we as people who love to watch entertainment, you know what I mean?
Right. The
eh,
gladiators.
yeah, like we have this like we might have this romantic view of like, oh, wouldn't it be so great to get the sports back? But once again, they're not thinking about us. They're not thinking about how
Yeah,
we could relieve the
that's a good point.
people of their, you know, whatever. They're just thinking about the money. And it's slimy and it's like very donor motivated, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
It's
sure, we'll say
true.
to them, oh, it's so nice, thank you, like, for bringing this back. They don't give a fuck about us. They're scrambling in their pants. They got their pants down. They're just like, how do we recover this business, and how can we use the plate of the people to get our business back in business.
Correct. No, well said. Well said. I don't even have anything else to add to that. I think that's perfectly said.
Yeah, thanks,
I agree with you
Glenn.
100%.
Thanks, Glenn, for the question. And I
Yeah,
guess
good question.
I think we're gonna wrap it up for the
Yeah,
day.
let's wrap it. Put a bow on it, baby.
Yeah, everybody. Yo, just want to remind everybody before we get off, thanks to all of you who hung out in the live stream today. Thanks for
Yes.
watching, thanks for sharing, thanks for your support, thanks for your comments and questions. Keep them coming, keep it sharing. If you want to go back and review any of this or any of our other discussions, they're all on YouTube, so you can check it out. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that bell so you get all the updates. And if you want, you can always like us anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, follow us, all that jazz. And if you ever feel like contributing anything, you can always do that on our Anchor platform. If you go to anchor.fm/progressives abroad, you can find us right there. Thank you so much, Mr. Screamin Eagle, for coming by today.
Always a pleasure.
Fabulous discussion. And I'm BoTik, everybody, your glorious host. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next time. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and peace.
Stay home.
Stay home.
Yes.
Yes.
Peace and love, everybody.
Au revoir.